Step inside my twisted world, where heroes will collide. Villains aren't the only evil, there are no fucking sides. Every match will test their stats, every loss and win are weighed. Any chance they thought they had could all end up in vain on Combo Breaker.
You know, people are always saying that a picture's worth 1,000 words. But fuck that, who cares about words when you can be making thousands of dollars off of those photos? And you know what, no two people are better at getting the damn near perfect shot and profiting off it while kicking ass than these two. Frank West, the zombie killing extraordinaire, and Peter Parker, the spectacular Spider-Man. Spider-Man! One of the greatest superheroes of all time. Hell, he's my second favorite character to play in Marvel vs. Capcom. And god, do I love those movies so much, especially Spider-Man Homecoming. That was a great Marvel movie, and it's truly one of the best that they've done just like ever. But enough about how much I love Spider-Man Homecoming, let's talk about Spider-Man's weapons, powers, and abilities. Spider-Man has super senses that can pick up on radio frequencies, and he also has his iconic spider sense that allows him to react to almost anything. However, if Spidey doesn't see this as a threat, his spider sense can kind of fail. So it's kind of like Ultra Instinct in that fact. He has to sense it as a danger and react on his own. It is not an auto dodge. Spider-Man can climb up any surface and even has a small healing factor. This allows him to recover from serious wounds over time or even heal up those basic battle wounds that he gets during the fight. Spider-Man has his trusty web shooters that can do multiple things like shoot normal webs and even an array of special ones, being taser webs for shocking foes, acid webs for melting things, foam webs for foaming things, cement webs for holding things in place, ice webs to freeze things, impact and magnetic webs to do exactly what they sound like, sonic webs, flame webs, antitoxin webs, webware, and even spider tracers. God, this is a useful amount of webs. But he's got a lot more than that. His webs can actually be used to create shields, tie people up, and force people to fly against walls with web traps. He can also do so much more with his webs. Man, this stuff is like super useful. I kind of wish I had some. I would exploit that shit all the time, like, sit on the couch, remote's all the way over on the table, thwip! Yeah, I really fucking want web shooters now. But arsenal aside, let's talk about Spider-Man's accomplishments. Spider-Man is strong enough to move the Hulk with physical force alone, and have him move at speeds of over Mach 400. He's held up buildings before, and he's one-shot T-Rex. Hell, he actually punched Scorpion's fucking jaw clean off, and he staggered the Hulk with his punches before. It's incredibly impressive. Spider-Man's even more impressive when you look at his speed. He can casually dodge handgun and machine gun fire. He dodges lightning on the regular, and at one point he hit Quicksilver while he was traveling at full speed. He's also caught Thor's hammer mid-flight, which moves thousands of times the speed of light. Spider-Man is also super durable. He's survived vicious blows from the likes of Venom and Carnage, and other characters including Mr. Fantastic and Daredevil. Not to mention, this was on more than one occasion, and keep in mind, Carnage is stronger than Spider-Man and Venom combined, and he's able to take a couple hits from this guy. Peter Parker is a genius. He's mastered martial arts, and he was even the one who made most of his own equipment. Not to mention, Reed Richards, aka Mr. Fantastic, and Tony Stark, the Iron Man, have called upon him for help more than once on their project, and he's skilled enough to fight alongside the Avengers. But don't take his genius and skill for perfection. Peter is a high schooler and doesn't tend to take fights too seriously unless he knows he's in serious danger. Frank West, my favorite Marvel vs. Capcom character and by far the best zombie slayer ever. I mean, the man's undefeated on my show. Well, without further ado, let's talk about what Frank's packing in that arsenal of his. See, Frank West is actually incredibly smart. He's learned to treat day-to-day objects like boxing gloves, jewelry, chairs, bricks, and even stuff like squirt guns as lethal weapons. And yes, while he'll obviously use your stuff like, chainsaws, guns, swords, knives, baseball bats as weapons to kill, those weapons won't really get him that far. Especially if he wants to survive for the 72 hours he was stuck in that mall. So Frank had to learn a more impressive skill, improvision, and that mixed with this amazing creativity made for some amazing weapons. Like his laser sword that he made out of a flashlight and some jewelry, because logically that's how it works. You know what, let me try that. Alright, just gotta duct tape the jewelry to the lights, and... Alright, I'll be damned, it worked. Just gotta turn that off so it doesn't, break anything. He can also make a Tesla gun, and he can mix it with that laser sword I mentioned earlier to make a laser gun. But don't worry, Frank West's arsenal only gets more ridiculous, as Frank West is a killing machine factory. In the same way that Disney cranks out amazing movies, Frank can crank out death machines to kill hordes of zombies. Don't believe me? Well, allow me to talk about more of Frank's badass weapons. Frank has flamethrowers made out of gasoline and squirt guns. He can also light a cow skull on fire and run through the hordes of zombies, killing them. He can take knives and attach them on boxing gloves, allowing him to make makeshift Wolverine claws, but I don't think he'll get accepted into Professor X's school anytime soon. He also has his chainsaw paddle, which is a paddle with chainsaws on both ends. Well, actually, I guess that was kind of self-explanatory. Well, this allows him to row himself through hordes of zombies. He also has a shotgun with a pitchfork on it. This allows him to impale his victim and then fire the shotgun, destroying them with a fatal blast. Or if Frank needs a big boom, he can tape multiple grenades to a football to make the Hail Mary. He can throw this, causing a massive ass explosion and possibly getting a touchdown. Or a strike? I don't fucking know sports. But wait, he has even more, like his freeze bomb to freeze opponents, a saw blade launcher to launch saw blades, a plate launcher to launch plates, and a dildo launcher to, kill zombies. He also has a fucking firework minigun. He can use this to fire fireworks at a rapid rate, blowing zombies to hell. He also carries even more weapons, like a powerful air horn with the force to shatter heads, a super electric guitar that can send out huge airwaves to kill zombies, and he can even create an electric sledgehammer that acts like Mjolnir, but with an extendo handle. He also makes a sledgehammer with fire axes to make the most dangerous weapon I could think of, the Defiler. Both this weapon and its name are absolutely disgusting. I mean, God, it's just so brutal. He also has access to Mega Man's Mega Buster and Zero's Z-Saber, and even Proto Man's Proto Buster and Shield. And Frank's most unexpected tool is actually his camera. The flash from this at close range is equal to that of a friggin' flashbang. How is that thing even legal? Like, imagine if a kid got that and accidentally flashed in his eyes, he'd blind himself. But he has even more up his suit sleeves, like his ability to eat and drink just about anything to regain health. And speaking of drinks, he can actually mix drinks and foods to make smoothies, giving him some pretty epic stat boosters. But now we have to talk about Frank's best equipments, his exosuit and the Capcom Heroes costumes. So Frank West has an exosuit that he can wear, and it comes equipped with all sorts of weapons, like a minigun, missile launcher, and a high-powered vacuum. A vacuum? Okay, well I'm not sure how a carpet cleaning tool is gonna help him, but on this suit he also has a more impressive weapon, a freeze ray that can launch ice tornadoes to freeze his opponents. But Frank's best tool comes from an arcade cabinet, of all things. When I put a quarter into an arcade machine, it doesn't give me superpowers. But Frank can use this machine to gain the costumes, weapons, and abilities of Capcom's All-Stars, like the Mega Man costume where he gains the Mega Buster, the Ryu outfit where he can shoot Hadokens and do spin kicks, the Akuma outfit that allows him to use the legendary Raging Demon to destroy his victim's soul, and he can use Dante's signature handguns and sword, not to mention Morgan from Darkstalker's entire frickin' moveset. But don't worry, Frank has some moves of his own. He has a flip kick he can use to decapitate foes. He has the ability to disembowel a foe, and he can slam someone's skull against the ground, shattering it. Not to mention, Frank can also suplex and throw people, and also judo flip them. Alright, on to feats. Frank West is a fucking powerhouse. He can shatter skulls with his bare hands, decapitate people with a kick, and even disembowel a foe with his bare hands. He can lift and throw heavy-ass objects like steel shelvings, incredibly long distances too, and he can smash benches and steel shelves with his hands. And his power only increases when you factor in his guns and his air horn that pops zombie heads like grapes, a laser sword that can cut through zombies like butter, a laser gun that can destroy hordes of zombies at a time, and his always trusty Mega Buster. Not to mention the extra power from his exosuits that allow him to launch cars with punches. He's actually stupidly quick too, as he's quick enough to outrun most survivors and zombies, and even better than that, he could actually catch up to a train. And even more impressively, he's dodged bullets, missiles, and even shots from his own laser and lightning guns. Frank West is durable as hell, as he can fall long distances with no issues and just get back up, and he survived hits from survivors with different weapons. Not to mention he can take hits from zombies, and he survived hits from the blast from a past, a weapon that casually rips through hordes of zombies. Plus he can survive a TNT explosion, not to mention he was awake and fighting for 72 hours straight in his first game. Talk about endurance. Frank is also a fucking genius. Using nothing but a flashlight and some jewelry, he can make a laser sword, and he's made all sorts of other crazy weapon combinations, and he does all this with just what he finds around him. Not to mention he has a wrestling background and clearly has boxing and MMA skills, as when he puts on those respective gloves, he shows quite impressive proficiency with them. But Frank is a human, and enough physical force can put him down for good, and his weapons do have limited ammo and durability, not to mention he's super cocky, and all of these things have gotten him into some pretty tough situations before. Alright, our combatants are set. Which photojournalist will come out on top in a fight to the death? Spider-Man is swinging through the city as a saw blade flies towards him from behind. Spider-Man turns, barely dodging the saw blade as it flies past his side. Spider-Man lands on top of a street light, only to look around to see Frank standing a few feet away from him. Spider-Man hops down and dive kicks towards Frank, who dodges aside and punches Spider-Man across the face. Spider-Man stumbles back as Frank grabs his baseball bat and smashes it against Spider-Man's head, shattering the bat. Spider-Man reorients himself to see Frank West duct taping a car battery onto a sledgehammer. Spider-Man then sucker punches Frank and follows up with an uppercut, launching him into the air and causing him to drop his hammer. Spider-Man then launches a web shot at the wall of a nearby building that expands out and grabs Frank as it snaps back, slamming Frank against the building. As Frank starts falling, Spider-Man leaps into the air and latches onto Frank with his webs as he spins around, throwing him to the ground. Spider-Man then lands in front of Frank, who's barely standing. Frank quickly grabs his camera and flashes it in Spider-Man's face, stunning him as he rolls over the side and grabs his electric hammer and swings it upwards, hitting Spider-Man in the jaw, electrocuting him in the process. Frank dashes forward at Spider-Man and uppercuts him with flaming boxing gloves as he finishes off his combo with a roundhouse kick to Spider-Man's head. Spider-Man gets up, barely able to move, as Frank West charges at him with a shopping cart with chainsaws taped to the front. It hits Spider-Man, launching him back and against a street sign. Frank then smiles as he pulls out his saw paddle and swings it at Spider-Man, who stands up and dodges just under it, uppercutting Frank, shattering the paddle saw and hitting Frank in the gut. Frank turns and starts running towards an arcade machine as Spider-Man launches a web ball at Frank's feet, sticking him to the ground. Frank pulls out his laser gun and fires at Spider-Man, who dodges aside and latches onto a wall. As Frank aims his next shot, Spider-Man shoots a web trap onto a street light. The web trap bursts open, grabbing Frank's upper body and ripping it off of his legs, killing him in the process. Spider-Man then walks away from the carnage, hoping that no news covered the bloody battle. Alright, our winner is none other than Spider-Man. Yeah, who else should stop the undefeated Frank West than the spectacular Spider-Man himself? So this fight was actually incredibly easy to see why Spider-Man wins. I mean, look no further than strength and durability. Frank physically can decapitate people, but he needs his best weapons like his exosuits, laser guns, and Capcom Heroes costumes to reach large building level. But Spider-Man is easily town level as he could launch and stagger the Hulk and punch Scorpion's jaw off with a single hit. So Spider-Man took strength and durability there in a landslide, and quite easily too. But what about speed? Maybe Frank can make up an advantage there. Well, Frank can dodge gunfire, lightning, and missiles, so he's at least massively hypersonic. But Spider-Man has dodged machine gun fire, lightning, and that's easily and just like on a day-to-day basis. He can do things like catch Thor's hammer and punch Quicksilver, giving him faster than light reaction speeds. Yeah, these stats alone will allow Spider-Man to easily destroy Frank. Honestly, the only reason I did this fight was because of the Marvel vs. Capcom rivalry. Looks like Frank West suffered an amazing loss to his winning streak. Our winner is Spider-Man. Next time on Combo Breaker. Cammy versus Orchid. First of all, let me thank you all for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share this to any friends you know who like versus debates. And, tell me what you think of the next match. Give me your predictions, maybe suggest matches in the comments, and they might happen.
Step inside